Good evening, everybody. So, for today was supposed to be a practical class, but I had to push it to next week so that we can meet up because we've not really had a theory class for me to properly explain what we are doing. It's one thing to use a tool, and then it's another thing to understand um how that tool actually works. You get so today is going to be about understanding AI from the basics, um not just using it. Can you guys see my screen? I don't even know if I'm sharing. Can you guys see my screen?
No. Oh, okay. Yes, we can.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So today, we are going to be understanding AI from the basics. I'm going to be opening up your minds to properly break down this whole AI thing to let you see what it really is, to understand why AI looks so smart, to understand how it was made, the reason why it was made, just basic things like this. So I really, really want you to open your mind and to open your heart so that you would really, really, really get this. You get, and it's going to be recorded, so you can always go back to it. So today is introduction to AI. I call it AI 101. And you'll be understanding how I don't know if you got what I said. I think my network went off for some seconds. Let me just go back. So today, like at the end of this class, you should understand what AI really is. Also, you should understand why it sounds smart. You should understand the types of AI and then how it works. So for the past few weeks, I've been teaching you about image creation, voice, how to do storytelling with AI, you know. But it is one thing to use a tool and it's another thing to really understand how that thing really works. Take, for example, the phone in your hands. You know how to use it very well, but really, do you really understand what makes your phone a phone? Do you really understand how that phone was made, how it works, the modus operandi? Or even say your car, you know how to drive a car, right? You might know how to drive a car, but if that car breaks down, do you really know how that car was made? You understand? Because if you understand how it was made, you'll be able to manipulate it and be able to solve the problem even better than somebody who doesn't know how to. I don't want us in this community to just be tool users, people who know how to use tool. You can create image, you can make video and the rest without understanding the whole concept about this artificial intelligence stuff that just appeared, that looks like it appeared from nowhere. It did not appear from nowhere. So I'm going to be attempting to take you backwards, you know, before taking you forward. So, like I said, at the end of this class, you should understand what AI is. I'm repeating this for the third time because I want it to sink in. So, by the how you measure your progress or how you measure your knowledge at the end of this class is if you understand what AI is, you understand why it sounds smart, understand types of AI and how it works. If you have any question along the way, I would advise that you get like a writing pad or a pen and paper or maybe your iPad or your laptop, just something that you will jot down certain things that I'll be saying, just in case I don't say it again. Anyway, you have the opportunity to go back and listen to it. But if you can write it down, I mean, you will even be able to learn faster. So now we start the class now. So I'm going to start by asking a question. I just want to, understand where we are. So I'm going to be asking a question. What is AI? Who can attempt to define what AI is? Who can try? Somebody should try. Anybody, just what you don't have, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just say something. Just attempt to. What is AI? What do you understand by AI? Can somebody attempt that? Anybody at all?
Artificial intelligence.
And that's the full meaning of AI. Like I'm saying, like define it. What is artificial intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? That is what I'm asking. What is artificial intelligence? Anybody, just whatever you know. It doesn't have to be perfect. We are learning. So everybody should be
It's
Oxford
like a
standard.
substitute for the knowledge that you do not have.
Okay. Sorry, come again. Come again, Ayo. I didn't get you clear perfect. What did you say?
I said it's like a substitute. It's like a substitute for the knowledge that you do not have or that you cannot access.
Okay, that's part of it. Any other person wants to try? Jessica, do you want to give a try?
No, no, sir.
All right, so we proceed. I hope you are writing down. Just have something around you that you write down. So, what is artificial intelligence? First of all, let us break down this thing. Let's start from the word artificial, then we get to intelligence. Now, what does it mean for something to be artificial? For something to be artificial means that it is not real, but it attempts to simulate something that is real. You get take for example, we have real plants and then we have artificial plants. Now, artificial plants look just like real plants. They have the characteristics of real plants, but they are not real. Let's look at another example, aeroplanes. Aeroplanes are like artificial birds. You get we have the real bed and then we have the aeroplane bed. Those ones are that means that somebody studied the modus operandi, the principles of how birds are able to fly in the sky, and then they took those principles and then they reproduced it in a machine such that that machine conquered the air and can fly just like a bird. So having defined artificial, now we'll go back now and attempt to define intelligence. Now, I wrote this down that intelligence is the cognitive capacity to learn from experience, adapt to new situations, understand abstract concepts, and use knowledge to understand one's environment. Intelligence involves reasoning, problem solving, and planning. I'm going to repeat that place again. Intelligence involves reasoning, problem solving, and planning. So, this is a quick question. Now you remember back in school when when we're back in school, secondary school, primary school, and then the teacher comes to the class and then teaches you a lot of stuff. And then at the end of the semester or the end of the term, they give you an exams. And when they give you an exams, all you just have to do is repeat back what the teacher taught to the teacher, and then they call that intelligence. But really, is that intelligence? Because that is more like you are just repeating back what you were taught. There's a difference. What I'm trying to say is that there's a difference between being intelligent and being able to recall things. You can have a good memory. That means you can be able to recollect the data that you have stored in your brain. That doesn't mean or necessarily mean that you are intelligent. It just means that you have an ability to recall data super fast. So that is a clear difference between intelligence and memory recollection. You get because memory recollection is based on data input, but intelligence is different. So having defined that, now I'm going to attempt to define, I'm going to be giving you two definitions of AI. I'm going to give you the first definition. The first definition will help you build, and then at the end of the class, I'm going to give you the second definition. So the first definition is what will help you to start understanding the why I teach. Then when I get to the end of my teaching, I'll give you the final definition. So I wrote a very, very simple definition, and I said that artificial intelligence is like teaching a computer to think and act like a human being. I'm going to repeat that. Artificial intelligence, let's just strip it down to the basics. It is just simply teaching a computer how to think and how to act like a human being. That means that some people they studied the human mind. They studied they ask questions like, how does a human being learn? How does a human being, why, what makes you a human being unique? How are we able to learn? How do we recall things? How do we notice things? How do we make decisions? And then when somebody studied those principles, they carried those principles and then they applied it to a machine, and then they reproduce that machine such a way that it works just like the human mind does. So having given you this very brief definition, I want to ask a question. And this question, you are not going to answer it. You at least not now. I'm going to ask you the question later on in the class, but I'm just going to ask you this question, and I want everybody to just think about it. Now, what is the difference between Google, like Google search engine, and AI? What is the difference between Google? We've always had Google from back in 2001, 2, 3, up till even till now. There's still Google, although they've updated their model. But what is really the difference between Google and the AI that we have today? Just think about it. I'm going to be asking you at the end of the class. Don't answer that question now, but just think about it. Okay. So let's continue. Let's go back to the class. So why does AI appear to be smart? Why does AI look so smart? Why does it feel like you be sometimes I know that you've wondered and been like, oh my god, why is this thing so smart? Is it like it has feelings? I know there are some people that they've turned AI to their best friends, they tell AI about their life, because they feel so connected with this thing. So the question is, why does this thing look so smart? Like, why does it feel so real and so smart? It's not complicated. And that's what I'm going to be explaining today. That's why I really need you to really open your mind. If you understand this class, then you will never see AI as a mystery again. You know that everything is a mystery until it is demystified. Once it has been demystified, it is no longer a mystery. So let us attempt to understand why AI feels and sounds so smart. I hope you're all ready. All right, let's move. Now, remember that I said before that some human beings came together and they asked themselves, how does how do human beings think? Why do humans sound so smart? How can we reproduce human intelligence? Can we make a machine to be able to think and act and make decisions just like a human? That were the questions they asked. And then they began to study the human brain. And after studying the human brain and the human mind for a while, they were able to reproduce these principles of how a human being is able to understand things, how a human being understand context, logic, make decisions, reasons, plan. They carried all those things and then they reproduced in a machine. But the real question is, what did they learn? And what was exactly the thing that they studied? You understand, that they applied to this AI or to this machine to make this machine smart. Now, that brings us to a very basic question, which is, how do humans actually learn? How do we learn? You and me, like, how are we able to learn? This is like the highlight of the class. So I want you to really, really, really pay attention at this point. Now, human beings learn in two ways. Number one, we learn by pattern recognition and repetition. How do human beings learn? Pattern recognition, number one. Number two is repetition. Don't worry, I'm going to break everything down. I'm going to say it again. Human beings learn by pattern recognition and repetition. If these are the only two things you get from this class, then just know that you are fulfilled. Human beings learn by pattern recognition and repetition. Now, what is a pattern? A pattern is a predictable, repeated arrangement of line, shape, colors, or events. Remember, not just line shape colors, but even events. It acts as a model, a guide, or template for creating something new. Patterns represent a consistent, observable trend in behavior, data, or nature. And patterns enable prediction and recognition of cause and effect. You can go back and listen to the definition. But just focus on the last part where I said patterns enable prediction and recognition of cause and effect. Now let us take this definition and break it down to the simplest step. Now, I said that human beings learn by two ways: pattern recognition and what? Repetition. Now, I'm going to ask a question. How did you learn how to walk? Can you remember when you started walking as a child? How did you learn how to walk? Because you did not just start walking, you know, just wake up and started walking. No, you had to learn how to walk. How did you do that? First of all, as a baby, you saw people around you, how they were walking. One left forward, and then the other left forward, one left forward, the other left forward. And so you recognize that pattern. But the day you attempted it, trust me, the first time you put your leg on the ground, I'm sure you fell down or something. You understand? Because you wanted to reproduce that pattern, you fell. But by repeating that pattern over and over and over and over again, you started learning how to walk slowly. Now, let's go back to the formula: pattern recognition and what? Repetition. But that's not all. Now, how did you learn how to open a door? How did you learn how to open a door? Like something as simple as a door. How did you learn how to open it? You studied it. Once you hold the handle and bend it and give it a little push, the door opens. That is a pattern. That once you put your hand on that handle and turn it down and give it a little push, it will open. Now, by repeating that action over and over and over and over, you learn how to open a door, sometimes without even actively thinking about it. Compare the first time you tried to open a door when you were a child. I'm sure you have to keep a small size stool, then you stood on it, tried so much, and maybe at the end you still couldn't open the door. And then an adult will just come and then just open it, and you're wondering, how did this person do this? Now let me give you another example. How did you learn to button your shirts? Remember when we were very small, and when you try to button your shirt, let's say for example the hand of your long sleeve, it's very, very simple. It's just for you to carry the button and put in between the hole of the other side of the cloth. But you will battle with this thing. Sometimes you can even battle with it for for almost 30 minutes. You are struggling to button it. But now you've grown. You now you know the pattern, and by repetition and repetition and repetition, now you don't even have to actively think about, like if you want to button your clothes, you don't even look at it again. You just put your hand, and before you know, you have put the button and you close it and you go your way. But compare it to the first time when you learn how to do it. Now, this is how we learn. I'm still going to give you more examples and more examples. Now, let me even give you a simple example. How did you learn how to cook? Let's say something as simple as a goosey soup. I don't know if it's simple, but something as good as simple as a good. How did you learn how to cook it? You saw a pattern. Let's say your mom taught you and said, oh, when you want to cook a goosey soup, first of all, you put your oil, and then you put your this, you put your that, you put your, it just, they arrange it for you. That thing that they are doing is pattern. They are mapping out a pattern for you. You understand? They map out the pattern for you. And then maybe the first time you tried it, you must have missed one or two things and then it didn't come out well. But when you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, let's say up to 4 or 5 times, you get it. And then even if they call you by 12 o'clock in the night and wake you up and say, cook a goosey soup, you don't actively have to think about it because you have learned through what? Pattern recognition and what? Repetition. Now let's go on. How did you learn how to wear slippers? I want to give us good examples as possible, so because I really want everybody to get it. So how did you learn how to wear your slippers? I know that most of us, we used to do that thing, that when you want to wear slippers when we were young, you carry the right one on the right leg and wear the left leg. Then you carry the left leg and wear in the left leg. Then you carry the left leg and wear in the right leg. You kept doing that. But you notice that, okay, this other part of the slippers is the one for the right leg, and this one is the one for the left leg. And then once you notice that pattern, you started going. Sometimes you even make mistake, but then you correct it. You make mistake, you correct it to the extent that once you want to wear your slippers, you don't even need lights to point at the slippers to find out whether which one is the left leg, or you just once you put your leg, because your leg has always been, you know what it feels like to wear the left leg and to wear the one that is not correct. So once you put your leg, you don't have to be checking. How did you learn that? By pattern recognition and what? Repetition. Now, let's take it a bit. Let's go up a bit. Let's leave the basics and go higher a bit. Now, how did you know? Like, how did you learn to know when it is morning? and it is evening. How were you able to how are you able to tell that this is morning or this is afternoon and this is evening? There are certain things that you notice. Let's say when you were small, probably when you were small, you just enjoy your food. You don't really know which one is the morning or afternoon or evening. But now as an adult, you can tell this is morning because there are some patterns that you have noticed that are associated with morning. So once you see those patterns, and because those patterns are repeated over time, you know that this is the morning. You don't even need to pray about it. For example, in the morning, you once you hear the cock crow, you know that okay, we are getting to morning, or it is morning. When the dew is feeling mild, sometimes you are not even consciously, you don't consciously even know the patterns, but because you have just experienced it for so long, it has recorded in your brain so much that you don't actively have to think about it. How do you know when it's afternoon? Once the sun comes out, you know this is actually this is afternoon because your brain has registered it that the sun does not come out in the night. Abi, as the sun never come out in the night in Nigeria? No. So once you see the sun come out in the afternoon, your brain automatically, by recognizing that pattern throughout your life on Earth, it knows that afternoon is associated with sun. So once it sees sunlight, it knows automatically that this is afternoon, right? Now, let me take it a bit. Let's go a bit higher, small again. Let's go like semi higher than this level. Now, how do you know when it's about to fall? Sorry, how do you know when rain is about to fall? Just by like the Holy Spirit doesn't need to speak to you or whatever you believe in does not need to speak. You just know that it's about to fall. Once you see the cloud start to change, and it starts to go darker, your brain automatically tells you because it has observed this pattern over time that once it is afternoon and then the sun is no longer shining and then the weather becomes a bit cold, the clouds are dark, then it means that something is about to happen. That means rain is about to fall. How did you learn that? Just pattern recognition and repetition. The pattern recognition is that you've seen this pattern across time. You've seen it many, many times. Your brain has seen it too many times to be confused. It knows automatically that this is rain that is about to fall. Now, when you now see thunder, like there is thunder, there is lightning, everywhere is shaking, there is wind, then your brain knows that this one is not just a normal rain. This one is going to be very, very brutal. How did you know that? Pattern recognition. Your brain has recognized that pattern over and over. You've seen that thing so many times in your life. It has registered in your brain. And then the repetition of that pattern has made you learn. So once you see that pattern, you don't even have to guess and say, oh, is it sun? You cannot see the clouds changing and wind blowing and you say, oh, sun is about to shine. No, it doesn't match the pattern flow. I don't know if you are getting me. Let me know if you are following up to this point. Are we following up to this point? Let me know I'm not talking to myself. Please say something. Let me know that you guys
Yeah,
are following. All right.
I am
So,
following.
all right.
Yeah,
No.
So let's take it a bit. Let's go higher a bit. Let's go up a bit. 'Cause I really, really want you to, if you understand this whole thing about patterns, apart from using it in AI, you'll be able to tell a lot of things about yourself. You'll be able to study things and understand things even more easily just by observing patterns, even by studying people. When you say you are studying people, what you are really looking at is really patterns. And so when you see patterns that are consistent with certain behavior, once you see that behavior again, you'll be like, I've seen this thing before. I beg, I know I should sit with this person. Why? Because you've seen that pattern over again and you've recognized it and you've learned. So once you see those kind of patterns, your brain automatically associates it with something, and you be like, and then you use that to make your decision and be like, oh, I don't want to associate with this person or this. That is how we learn. So let's even go a bit higher. Please don't get tired of these examples because I want this thing to really stick in your brain. So let's say you go out now and you are with your friend. Let's say you are having dinner, and let's say you are eating a okra soup or ogbono soup, and then you are eating very well. But this other guy As he's eating, the whole thing is drawing. Maybe he wore a white shirt and the okra soup is drawing, all over his clothes. Maybe he has beards, the okra soup is just there. And then you look at the person and you ask the person the question like, why are you eating like a child? You just ask, that's a simple question. Why you dey chop like pikin now? Because why you go dey stain your white with soup as an adult? What that statement simply means is that this pattern that you are exhibiting is not common for adults. This pattern is common for little children. So as an adult, I don't expect that you should still be exhibiting this pattern. My brain has registered this pattern, and through repetition, I know that this kind of pattern is consistent with little children, because an adult at the age of 40 should not be eating outside and staining their clothes and everything around them with oil and the rest. It does not speak, it does not represent the level where you are. That is simply what you are saying, no matter how you say it. All right. So, if I add now, let's go a bit up. Let's go higher. Now I'm going to sing this into AI so you understand. Now let's even take it a bit. Let's go up again. Now, if I meet you in the morning, let's say you just come out from your house, and let's say we are neighbors. You come out from your house, and I come out from my house, and I meet you, and I say, "How are?" What is the most likely word that I'm going to say after saying how are? We are just meeting in the morning. I just came out from the house. I will just say, hey, and I said, how are? What is likely to be the last word that I'm going to say in that sentence? Can somebody answer this? If you come out and you say how are, what is most likely to be the last word that I will add to complete that sentence? Someone should answer, please.
You.
Good. Now, how did you know that it is how are you? Because your brain has noticed that once you meet somebody, it is mostly about compliment. So when the time you are saying how are, the most likely word to come after that are is you. How did you know that pattern? You recognize that pattern. That pattern in words for a long time, and through repetition, it has you have encrypted it into your brain that once somebody says how are, then the next likely thing that will come out is you. Now, remember when smartphones came out? Remember when we started having smartphones around us? And let's say you are using your WhatsApp. When you type something, let's say you type it, there will be suggestions there. You see it is, it was, there will be suggestions, and then sometimes you go for is. That was AI, although at its early stage, that was AI. If you remember something like that, that once you type on a smartphone, it shows you suggestion as at when that thing came out. That was when they started training. You know that AI, one thing, the difference between you and AI is really that AI is trained on a very large database. So all those while that you started seeing that, and that was AI in training. That was how AI started learning how human beings communicate by studying our communications on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on Facebook. So by the time you type a message and then you send it, the AI learns and then correct it. It corrects itself automatically and keeps correcting itself and keeps correcting itself and keeps correcting itself just by recognizing the patterns at which we speak and by constant repetition. That was how AI started learning. That is how they've been training this AI from since. Now back to back to what we were saying. I can go on this explanation, but I hope that finally you are beginning to understand how human beings truly learn and how it is possible for AI to be smart. Now, let me say this: AI has no feelings. AI cannot think. Like, the way human beings process thoughts and logic. AI does not have that capacity. What AI does is just to find patterns in what you say or what you ask. And let's say you ask AI a question like, let's say, how can I build a successful tailoring business? You ask your ChatGPT, how can I build a successful tailoring business? Do you know what the ChatGPT does? It will take that your request, and then it will go back to its database, and then it will find patterns among the most successful businesses, especially in tailoring. It will find the most successful businesses, then it will find the patterns that are consistent with those businesses, and what it does, it will now feed it back to you. So what this means that, in fact, for you to really be successful in certain things, you don't necessarily even have to invent a way. You can simply just study the patterns of what this person did, and then you can become that thing, or you can learn that thing, or you can be successful in that thing. For example, if you want to become, let's say you want to be, you want to go into furniture and you want to become very, very good at furniture, you don't necessarily have to invent a way to become good. All you just have to do is find somebody that is very, very good at it, that is excellently good at it, and then submit yourself to that person and learn from that person. By learning from that person, what you are just doing is learning that person's pattern. And after a while, after a certain period of learning from that person, you will be able to reproduce that result. You either reproduce it at the level at which that person is, or even beyond the level at which that person is. Now, you often hear about this whole Igbo entrepreneurship pattern where, a young guy goes to learn something from his oga, and then after 5 years, the person becomes good. And, it was even written in Harvard that that was one of the most successful systems of mentorship, especially in business mentorship. But if you break it down and you understand, what are those people really going to learn? A small boy goes to learn from his oga, they are just going to learn the patterns that has already been established there. So once they learn these things from their oga, once they finish learning it, all they just need to do, they don't even have to be creative. They only have to reproduce what the oga is already doing, and success is guaranteed, because 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. So if you add this and you add this in your formula, so far as all the variables are the same, then you are definitely going to get the exact result that that person got. I'm trying not to go to I'm trying not to go ahead of me, so that we can follow up, because I still have things that I don't want to say yet until you've gone. So this is how AI is trained. So let's say, for example, the ability to differentiate between a cat and dog. Then using this formula of pattern recognition and repetition. For example, if you want an AI to be able to differentiate between a cat and dog, here is what they did. They just exposed the AI to many pictures of cats and many pictures of dog. And what the AI did over time was to learn the patterns of what makes a cat and what makes a dog. For example, a dog tends to have bigger ears than a cat. That's a pattern. You call it characteristics, but it is really also a pattern. A cat has whiskers. Dogs don't have whiskers. Cats don't grow so much, like very big in size. You understand? Cats don't do that. But dogs have the ability to grow to, like, they weigh so much pounds. You understand? So by exposing this AI consistently to these images, that is how they learn. In fact, that is also the same way that you as a human being learn, because when you were small, you really, at a point, you really couldn't differentiate between a dog and a cat. Your parents have to show you, this is a cat and this is a dog. Sometimes you call the dog cat and you call the cat dog, but you now correct and say, no, this is the one that is cat and this is the one that is dog. What they were doing is just exposing you to those patterns and then repeating it over and over and over again till it's cemented in your brain. This is just the way AI works. It is as simple as that. It is as simple as that. It's not complicated. It's not that it is so smart or so. It's just principles applied. That is it. So AI works in three simple ways. There are three simple ways that an AI machine works. Number one is data accumulation. Data accumulation. That means the raw data. That means knowledge. Because, for example, for you to even be able to predict something, you have to have the knowledge first, right? So data first. And then after data is pattern, to find the patterns in the data. And now I'm teaching you about three simple ways that AI works. Number one is you supply data to the machine. And number two, the machine learns to predict patterns across those data. And then number three is the actual prediction of those patterns. So now, let's go back to, remember I asked the question when we started. I asked the question. I said, what is the difference between Google, the search engine, and AI? I want somebody to attempt that question. Anybody? Someone should attempt that question. The difference between Google and AI that we know today. Google as a search engine that we've always known since we were small. What is the difference between Google and AI? Someone should attempt that question, please.
Okay. Let me try.
Okay.
So from your explanation, Google, um, their its knowledge is gotten from people. That is, people just put their, will I say, put in knowledge into Google, right? But for AI, they learn from pre-existing. Um, this thing is hard.
You are getting it. You are getting it.
Am I?
Okay, someone else should try.
AI
Yes,
learn from
you
what is
got it.
already. Then
Yes.
Google has to. It requires input of knowledge, but AI learns it. I think that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, someone else should try. Mboti, can you try something? Mboti.
Okay. From what I understand about this Google and AI has the ability to create something,
Okay.
like the ability to create, but I think
Okay.
Google cannot create anything like generate
Okay.
a
All right.
kind of picture or anything like that.
Okay. All right. That's any other person wants to try. Alpha, Danny FX, do you want to give a try? Danny, unmute your mic. Let's hear you. Mr. Danny, can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know whether it's hearing us, but okay, you all have what you've said is you are correct. You are very, very correct. Now, Google has a lot of information. Like Google knows a lot of things. It knows literally everything. You understand? Google knows literally everything. It has knowledge. Let's put it like that. Google has knowledge, but does not have wisdom. And the reason why it doesn't have wisdom is because it does not have understanding. So now let me go back again. Now Google is like that good student. Remember, I gave you an analogy of when we were in primary school and secondary school where they would come to teach us stuff. They would teach you about what is a noun, and they tell you what a noun is, and then in the exams they now ask you what is a noun, and then you give them back what they gave you. A noun is the name of a person, and then they say, "Oh, you are very intelligent," and that they said that that was not intelligence. That just meant that you have a good memory. Now, that is how Google is. Google has a wonderful memory. It has all the information in the world. So if you ask it an information, for example, if you ask it what year did Nigeria gain independence, it will tell you that because it already has the knowledge in it. But if you now ask Google that Google, Nigeria has gained independence for over 50 years now, but nothing has been changed. What can we do to change the situation of Nigeria? Google will just look at you because it doesn't have anything to say because it only has what? Knowledge. So what this means that having access to knowledge does not automatically mean you can have so much knowledge and not be transformed. If you do not know how to coordinate that knowledge and to be creative with that knowledge to the end that it transforms you, it is totally useless. So that is just the difference between Google. Although now you know that Google had a lot of knowledge and they will always repeat back to you what you gave it. You understand? But now Google has upgraded in such a way that they have now included AI in their platform. So now all the information that they had, all the knowledge that Google had now, if you ask Google a question now, because now it has the ability to to think, it has the ability to, no, let me not call it think, it has the ability to recognize patterns, to act just like the human mind is structured. So whatever you tell it, it is now capable of using the information that it already has, to be creative with it to a certain end of whatever it is that you want it to do. You have to go back and listen to this particular thing to get that part. I'm not going to go back. So that is really the difference between Google and AI. So AI is smart. Write this part down. AI is smart because number one, it has seen more information that any other human has seen. What that means is that whatever you think you know right now, AI knows times 1 million of it. Like it's not like human beings are not capable of storing information in their head, though. But AI has the ability to store millions of. In fact, AI knows literally everything that is on the internet. It has it in its database. And then another thing is that it cannot forget. So whatever you put into it, it will always remember. It cannot forget. It does not get tired. It does not die. It is available 24/7. You understand? And then another thing that makes AI unique is that it processes in seconds. That means it does not take it. It does. I think seconds is even too late. So should I say milliseconds? Because or nanoseconds. So because when you ask a question, it processes that questions across the database so fast and gives you an information. So let's say you ask AI now that let me look for something that isn't hard. Let's say you tell AI what should I even and now I'm thinking of something that is not too complicated, something that is really simple. Let's say you tell AI to, let's say, come up with a business plan for you, for your interior business, or come up with a content. Okay, okay, not everybody. I wanted to use an analogy from forex trading, but not everybody trades forex here, so you will not be able to relate with it. So let's just go back to the business plan. So let's say you ask AI to write a business plan for you that is likely to get your investors to attend to you or to be interested in that business. What AI simply would do is once you give it that information, it will take that information and then it will scan across millions and millions of business plans that are available. It will find it. That's why it's good to prompt. And later on, I'm going to be teaching you about how to prompt. That's why your prompt is like the key when it comes to using AI. Your prompt is the game changer because the way you prompt your AI is the way it will behave. If you tell it to find the best of the best, it's going to find the best of the best. If you just say write a business plan, it will just look for random stuff. But if you give it a role, you are the best businessman in the world, or you are the best analyst in the world, write a business plan for me that will get me to land this deal, explain everything to it in detail. It will now look across millions of data. It will find the patterns that are consistent with the most successful businesses in the world. And then what it will do is it will combine all those patterns together and then come up with something, and then it will feed that thing back to you. And it does this super fast, like super, super, super fast. Before you close your eye and say, it has already, giving you the information back. And the thirdly, remember I said AI is smart because number one, it has seen more information than a human. It processes in seconds, and it never, like it can never, never, it can never forget. You understand? So you might want to ask me that, okay, how about generative AI? Last week we had a class where we were creating images on AI, with AI, sorry. And you tell AI, create an image of a Nigerian man standing on a Nigerian road, doing this, doing that. Now, when you feed that to the what AI does is to scan millions of pictures about Nigerians, and then it will look at the way Nigerian roads are. It will look at the way everything, like how the setting is like. And what it will do is it will attempt to reproduce that just exactly the same way it is. You know that once upon a time, if you try generating pictures with AI, let's say you say generate a picture of a boy eating iron, it can generate the picture and it will have like three hands. or it will have instead of 5 fingers, it might have like 7 or 8 fingers. But nowadays, you really see that. What changed? That AI has been exposed to the patterns of how a human being's finger looks like. So now he knows that human beings have 5 fingers. That means if your own is 6 or 7, we have to look for another name for you, because according to the pattern, human beings are supposed to have 5 fingers. And then this thing has been repeated over and over and over and over again. It is learning. It is learning. So every mistake an AI makes and corrects itself, it learns. So that means that every time an AI makes a mistake, it gets smarter because it will learn. And it is not just learning from you, it is learning from so many people across the world at once. So how will you meet up with such speed? That's why an AI is very smart. Let's even talk about voice AI. You type in something, you type in and say, like for example, the last class that we did, and I told you people to create a voiceover for your videos. And as you can use any accent. Let's say you decide to use a Nigerian accent, and the AI actually sounds like a Nigerian. Why is that possible? Because that AI has been exposed to the, that even the way we speak is according to pattern. Our voice tone has a pattern, the way we sound as Nigerian. The difference between a Nigerian accent and an Indian accent and a British accent and a US accent is just the pattern in the pitch of the voices. That is the difference. So what the AI does is it studies the patterns of the pitches of how of a pitch now is the height and depth of a sound. Okay, so it studies the way a Nigerian sound, the way Yoruba sound, the way Igbo sound. You understand the way Hausa sound. Now I'm currently working on an application for Nigerian Rail Corporation where one of the language model that is there is Hausa, and this AI speaks Hausa so fluent. The AI that I have to include, the Hausa is so fluent. Me, I was wondering myself, I don't even understand the Hausa, but just listening to the AI, I'm enjoying the Hausa. Do you get? So how did they learn that? Just by recognizing the patterns in how Nigerians speak. And then when you tell it use Nigerian accent, it just automatically switches to those the patterns that it has recognized with how Nigerians speak. You understand? It follows that pattern. AI now speaks pidgin. How was it able to learn pidgin? It just pattern recognition and what repetition. So it recognizes the pattern that if you say how you did, it means how are you. So by learning that every day and through repetition, it gets used to it. So by the time you tell the AI how you did, it knows that you are asking it how it's doing, and so it will reply you with I did or I'm fine or whatever, you know. So this is really how AI learns. There's nothing complicated about it. It is just a machine that has access to a very large amount of information called data, and it finds patterns across this information whenever you ask a question. That is what makes it smart. Now, I told you that I was going to be giving you two definitions of what's on two definitions on AI. I gave you the first one. Now I'm going to give you the final one. This is the final definition, and then after that, we'll be done with the class. So now, what is AI? From everything that I've taught you, remember I gave you a first definition that AI is just a machine that has the ability to think and process information like a human mind, right? So now we are going to step up that definition, and I'm going to give you another definition of AI, which is AI is a system trained on a lot of data to recognize patterns and make smart predictions quickly. I'm going to repeat it. AI is a system trained on a lot of data to recognize patterns and make smart predictions quickly. Good. Some people use AI. I'm just going to add this as a bonus. Some people use AI for sports prediction, for people that do sports and even forex. And for people that are very, very good in predicting sport, they call it analysis. They are analyzing sport, but what they are really doing there is finding patterns. Really. So you say someone asks you, Chelsea will win this match. Your brain automatically goes back and then starts looking at the patterns of how whether Chelsea has been losing or winning. If it has been winning for maybe a high amount of time, you will now say, the blind said Chelsea will win this match. But if it has been on a consistent losing streak, you'll be like, no, 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 no. What that thing? The only reason why you were able to reach The only reason why you were able to reach that analysis is because you have observed that pattern, and over a long period of time you have repeated it, and so it is easy for you to easily predict. So if when you ask, let's say you want to take a bet, and then you go and then you try to analyze with AI, and then you ask AI, oh, Chelsea and Man U, or this one they are playing, which one is more likely to? What AI just does is it will collect all the data of all the matches that Chelsea has played, maybe with Arsenal or whatever club it is. And then what it does, it finds the winning streak. For example, if Arsenal is playing with Man U, it will now say, okay, how many times did have they played? How many times did Man U win? How many times did Chelsea lose? What were the variables that caused those wins and losses? Who is more likely to win? It's a prediction. Who is more likely? And then based on all this analysis and pattern recognition across this data, it comes up with a conclusion. And then it tells you that, okay, this is the one that will likely, win. This is the one that will not likely win, and so on and so forth. And so that brings us to the end of today's class. I hope that you are not bored, and I hope that the class was not boring. So now I'm going to leave the floor open so you can ask your questions, and then I will give you the assignment for today, which you will some of you have not even submitted the one for last week yet. It's not good though. It's not good. By the time you start refusing to submit your assignment on time, what are you doing? You are beginning to show a pattern that is not good. That means that you are not serious. That is the pattern. So after 1 month, if I say this person is not serious, I'm saying that because I have observed the pattern that you have not been submitting your assignment. So please develop new patterns. So I'm begging you. And then this whole thing that I said about pattern, it's a very interesting thing. And I'm going to be going very, very deep on it when I want to teach about system building and building systems. That is when you understand how patterns play a part in our life. You understand? You can even look at, like, apart from AI, you can actually study yourself like a project. You can literally look at yourself and study your life. You can just study your life and say, okay, 2006, 7, 8, and then study it, and then try to find, you know, how your life has been over the years, and then try to find the patterns of what happened that led to so things. And then when you find those patterns, you can disrupt it. You can disrupt it. And once you disrupt a pattern, it will not work as it was intended to work. Let's say, for example, I said, how do we open a door? You turn the handle and then you give it a little push, the door will open. But what if the door is locked with a key? No matter how you turn that handle, it will not open. That means that patterns can be disrupted. So this knowledge alone is enough for you to apply to your life and disrupt things. Like, it's enough to give you a very in-depth understanding about your life and about life in general. You understand? So that brings us to the end of today's class. And over to you people. So if you have a question, this is the time where you do the asking. So everybody has to ask a question, 1 minute each, starting from Sister Jessica. So Jessica, go ahead to ask your question, or a contribution, or a question, anyone. Do you have a question? Okay, Jessica, I think our network is bad. But any question?
Please, please can you say the definition again? The last definition, the AI definition.
The last definition. Okay,
Yeah.
for the last definition, I said that AI is a system trained on a lot of data to recognize pattern and make smart predictions quickly. That means it is trained on a lot of data, and its job with this data is to find the patterns in those data and then use that patterns to make predictions quickly. Have you gotten it now?
Yes.
Okay. Any question from your end?
Mhm.
Jessica, any question from your end?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Perfect. Mute your mic, Jessica. Mute your mic.
Sorry, sorry.
Perfect. Any question from your end? Or mute your mic, oh, so we hear you. But any question?
Okay, I have a question.
All right.
I want to ask if AI can make a mistake, maybe as a result of bad network or like anything. Is there any way
Okay.
AI can make a mistake?
Yes, AI can make a mistake. It can make mistakes, not even, and it's not because of network. It's not because of network. Now, here is how it happens. If, let's say, for example, let's say, for example, you ask AI how to how to do something, and then it doesn't have that thing in its database. You know that no matter how we say AI has all the knowledge in the world, there are still some knowledge that AI does not have. For example, there were things that were not documented in our own culture. So AI cannot have that knowledge. So if you now go and ask an AI and say, okay, how do I do this or how do I do that? You know, it may not have that information. It may not fully know it, but it will still tell you something. You know, in future I'm going to be teaching you about this also. So that is why sometimes it is always good to ask your AI to. Sometimes when I'm interacting, let's say for example, maybe I'm building an app or I'm developing a code with AI, or maybe I'm just working with AI. When I ask it a question and it gives me an answer, I'm going to ask it to break it down and show me how it arrived at that answer. Like I want to look at the logic behind how it arrived at that answer. You understand? You have to learn how to think the way the AI thinks. You understand? It sometimes it uses logic. So it tell you break down the logic. Because if you say that A is equals to B and B is equals to C, then I want to see how you arrived at that C. You understand? So don't just give me probability. Show me how you arrived at it. So by the time you now tell it, okay, show me how you arrived at it, sometimes the AI will now say, oh, that there was a mistake or this, but the mistake is always going to be mild, like not too deep. But it is always good that if you are dealing with, let's say you are writing let's say you are doing an assessment, or you are maybe doing a project, an important project with AI, it is just good that you don't just, for example, maybe you are writing a story, the AI can just cook up a story that does not exist and make it feel good. You understand? So that's why you have to ask it, how did you come up with this story? This particular story that you are listing here, or this particular thesis or this particular observation, where did you get the theory from? Show me, or put the link here. Let me go and verify. That's when you now know that it was bluffing. So yeah, that is it. So it can make mistakes. Sometimes another way to go about this is to compare. Sometimes I work with ChatGPT and Gemini. So when I ask ChatGPT a question, I carry it and go and ask Gemini and say, Gemini, see what ChatGPT said here. Is it true? Gemini will now say, this one, that one, and then I'll just cross it over and then till I'm okay. So yes, AI can make mistakes. And the reason why it is making that mistake is not because of network. It's not because it does not know. It's simply because it does not have the complete information, or maybe it did not really take time to find out that information for you. There is something called deep analysis on ChatGPT. When you're working with your ChatGPT, there's something called deep analysis. And what that does is, if you want to do an in-depth study, you can use deep analysis, and it usually takes a while. So what that AI does is, it will not just give you surface information, it will go deep down into the database and find, like, it will gather more information, not just surface information, and then before giving you a reply. So I hope I've been able to answer that question. Is there any other question, Botty?
Yes, I have a
Okay, there was
question.
no question. No.
Who has a question? Jessica, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what's your
For
question? Can you be more audible?
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, explanation. I'm beginning to feel like AI and Google, they are sounding alike, because you said that for AI to make mistake, it means it has not gotten enough knowledge, right? So it
Yeah.
means that AI requires an input of information same as Google, right?
Yes. I explained that. I said that for an AI to work, number one, it needs data. Information is data, right?
Yes.
Good. And what
So
Google does is, now, if you notice, most of the AI that we use, for example, Gemini, is an AI that is synced to Google. What that means is that Gemini's database is Google. In fact, most of the AIs they are synced to Google because Google has been collecting data right from back in the days. So it has a very rich database. So what the artificial what AI does now, the intelligence in it is that now that you have the data now, it is the ability for we us to use that data, to a certain end. So now the data that we have is now programmed in such a way that it can find patterns across the information that it has and make prediction based on the data that it already has. So without data, without information, an AI is useless because where is it going to be analyzing from? Where will it find the patterns from? It needs information to work. So yes, but having information, but what Google had before was just information. Okay, they did not have the technical know-how on how to use the information to make prediction. Just like a human being, you have information in your mind. You know a lot of things. You understand, but you can use this thing that you know to do many things. You get. For example, if you're a carpenter, you can use that knowledge of being a carpenter to nail something on the wall. You can use it to nail your bed. You can use it to do many things. You understand? So that is it. So for an AI to be an AI, first of all, it needs knowledge. You understand? It needs knowledge. So look at Google like this. Google has knowledge, but it didn't have wisdom because wisdom is what application of the knowledge. So now AI is now the wisdom that has come. So knowledge plus wisdom now produces result because now there is understanding. That's if I'm making sense. So are you clear on that, Jessica?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All
Jessica,
right.
thank you.
All right. Perfect. Are you with us?
Yes, sir.
So do you have a question so far?
No, I don't.
Danny, do you have a question so far? Okay. So here's the assignment for the week. I'm going to be dropping a link and it's not something that is going to be taking your time. Now, the assignment for the week is this. I want you to explain the difference between Google and the AI operating system that we have. I want you to explain it very clearly. I'm going to drop a link that you click the link and then you answer it and then you save it. Okay, so you are not going to be typing. I will drop the link. Once I drop the link, all you just need to do is click on the link and then you'll be able to answer the question and then you submit it. Reflect over here. So if there's no other question, then that will be all for today and see you all next week, Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. All right, goodbye, everybody.
All right, goodbye.